What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. Talking Wednesday night's 8-game MLB slate. Many times on Wednesday we got a split slate, so we did have some morning action still ongoing. And, of course, pretty decent slate tonight with 8 games. It does start 25 minutes earlier right off the bat, so that's 6:40 Eastern time start. I'm Draft Cheat. You guys know that by now. Joined as usual on Wednesdays by Third and Schlong, back from the British Open, the Open, as some people get very upset when you call it the British Open. I'm personally not one of those people, but maybe you are, Bryce, headed back from overseas. Just got back last night, but you're here for the people breaking down the MLB slate. I know. We were talking a little pre-show. You had a pretty awesome team, I think, through 2 rounds, through the cut of the Open, and it sounds like maybe it kind of went downhill from there. But yeah, give us a little details on the trip. How you doing on this Wednesday afternoon?
I'm doing great. Getting over the jet lag. I got delayed 3 times in New York last night. Basically, I did a show with Mangone, like members only for the early slate, like just a quick one. And I was like, I'm just going to like pass out and take a nap and try and get back on the right time zone because I was up like super early this morning. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great trip. Speaking of calling it the British Open, we ended up at a bar doing trivia night, and our team name was It's the British Open instead of the Open. Yes. We ended up not doing bad. JBC somehow knows a lot about like British trivia questions. I was of like no help, but it was a fun trip. I was leading the $25 millie, and Saber had it projected at like 10%, with around 100,000 expected value, and I think that's about the highest I've ever seen for like one of the millie makers after 2 rounds. So I mean, I was all fired up, and then Saturday comes and the weather is just so easy in the morning and turns to absolute shit in the afternoon. So all my guys tee off in the afternoon, obviously, and I'll shoot like awful rounds. So like it allowed the entire field to catch up. So it was just kind of downhill from there, but great trip, cool experience. Scotland weather is not my thing. Way too cold and rainy. The food shit. But the golf was great. I had an amazing time there, and really glad I went. But also glad to be back in the swing of things with baseball. We got a little off chance at a sweat here. I had the Rockies as my top stack and ended up playing 5-3 Boston when Yoshida got scratched because like the team fit way better with the pitching I wanted. So I kind of wish he hadn't gotten scratched and I had 5 Rockies, but yeah, that was fun. I know we're doing Olympic soccer over here, and I think we have a decent team going there. So yeah, got some sweats during the show, and I think we have a really fun slate tonight. Actually, I'm pretty over the whole quarter slates this time of year. So yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, the Open, the British Open, is, I wouldn't mind going, but it's low on my list in terms of like championship events. Like, you just watching that, it's like the middle of July. People have like sweatshirts and rain jackets on the whole time.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
well, I went with JBC obviously, and his dad's a member at Troon, so like he could get us clubhouse access. So like the two days where it was like really shitty weather, we just kind of hung out in the clubhouse, and then the 2 days when it was nice outside, we were out on the course. So that was a good way to kind of get out of the rain.
I'm with crew here, where it's like if I'm going
the
to
Masters is 100% my first choice.
Yeah, and like if I drove past the Royal Troon or St. Andrews just like on the highway and like saw it over to my right, I'd be like, oh, look at that shithole golf course. And that's what it looks like watching on TV. I just and then you look at the Masters, it's like just the picturesque, everything's perfectly green, perfectly manicured. I don't know. I prefer watching golf on the I guess the traditional kind of green American courses. I get the tradition of all of it, but yeah, I don't know. The Open, not my favorite of the golf tournaments or sporting events. And yeah, it does suck. It's like, when you're golf is it feels like it isn't, but it's so highly variant, right? Through 2 rounds, anything can really happen as long as you get your guys through the cut. But like if you're down in a golf tournament, I don't know. I always feel like I've got not that much chance to catch up. But if you're winning like you were, you also know that it can fall apart in a hurry.
Yeah, it's a wild swing. You can never count your eggs before they hatch in golf. Especially at these courses that are so tough, it's like one bad hole. Like I had Neiman on my team, and he made a 9 on the par 3, and then he was just like, kind of stone dead after that. And like Siwoo Kim, like the scores being so low, Siwoo Kim made an ace. So like even though he didn't like finish well, like the ace kind of trumps. Like he scored as well as the guys in the top 10. So that's just kind of golf for you. I'm not a huge golf guy, but I definitely play the majors.
Yeah, I also don't like the fact that just the luck of the draw on the weather can have such a big impact on who wins the tournament. Just, I don't know. Rubs me the wrong.
I like showdown golf more just because like it's much easier to predict
Sure.
weather the day of. So like
Yes.
I think there's an edge in that
Yeah.
aspect of it. So I'm kind of more of a showdown golf than main slate golf guy, like in general. Like you'll see me in the showdown streets a lot more often than the main slates.
Makes sense. Yeah, this is actually my last baseball show for a while. Not last baseball show in general. I need some third and schlong advice on what to do when you go to a state that you can't gamble. I got a family reunion event coming up tomorrow morning. I'll be in Washington State from Thursday morning till Tuesday night, and no legal gambling, no DFS. What I'm doing, Schlong, is I'm signing up for any contest currently in the lobby. As of like 7 a.m. tomorrow.
So you're going to be a golf guy this week.
Yes,
and then you get to play some poker with like Unky.
Yeah, and I'm signing up for MMA on Saturday. That's posted.
Yeah.
DK has like the 111 immaculate inning. I think the only baseball action that I can get. I'm definitely signing up for those. Getting my money down.
Well, I mean, it's not the worst time to take a break. Like, I mean, we just had the All-Star break, but like, I don't know. Baseball becomes a grind. Like, I don't mind taking like a week off. Like, I would hate to take a week off of NFL.
Oh yeah.
I've actually never been to the Pacific Northwest simply because you can't play DFS there. It's like the one area of the country I've never been to.
It's an awesome place for like outdoor stuff. He lives right on the Puget Sound. It's beautiful this time of year, Mount Rainier. It'll be a good time, but the gambling action is certainly limited. They do have good live poker there. So yeah, me and Unky. Nobody watching this knows who that is. My younger brother, Unky Warthog, of CPC fame. We'll be hanging out, and I'm sure getting into some degenerate activities, but it won't be a lot of DFS or shows. This can't really do a baseball show if you can't actually play baseball. So I'll have a few days off from the shows, and I'll be back then Wednesday, and we'll finish strong on the baseball season. And man, NFL Schlong is not far away at this point. I mean, we're back into training camp. We've got the first preseason games coming up in a couple of weeks. Obviously, we're both big NFL guys. And man, nothing beats an NFL Sunday. College football too, I think, is kind of picking up steam DFS wise. So it's
we even got some college football best ball going on. So
yes.
I'm about ready to start getting ready. I think best ball, like I'm not like a massive best ball guy, but I definitely do it every year just because I think it's like a really good way to warm up like for the season. Like, you get like in tune with like all the player switches, like who you're expecting to like buy or sell on the season, like on a week to week basis. So like at the start of the season, obviously it's matchup dependent, but I really do think it helps with season prep. Like even if you're just like not a big bankroll player, like I would definitely hop in like 10 or 20 like very like small dollar drafts just to kind of familiarize yourself with like all the roster moves.
Yeah, the best ball channel over at Run Pure Sports for you members or those of you who might be is popping or has been for a couple weeks. I don't know, 60, 70 drafts in, something like that. And you're right. I already kind of know, or I think I know. Obviously, things are going to change a ton, but who I might want to play early on in the year, all that good stuff. So excited for football. Kind of excited for a little break, but yeah, we love we love gambling on sports and doing DFS and all this stuff. So with that, let's get into this slate. Like I said, 8 games to talk about, and we do start in Cleveland for the Tigers and the Guardians. Tanner Bybee pitching for the Cleveland Guardians. He's had a pretty solid year this season. They've really stretched him out these last few starts, averaging 105 pitches in his last 3 starts. So no concerns about duration. Obviously, a pretty good matchup against Detroit. I will say the Tigers' bats have come around a little bit in the second half of the year, at least the top half of that lineup. Colt Keith has started to hit. Riley Green's been pretty studly all year long. Wincio Perez is decent. And so they have kind of made the lineup a little bit better. Still think Bybee at 8,500 is a strong play here. Not too hot, winds blowing in Cleveland. So Bybee, I think, is interesting. And then Jack Flaherty, who's been awesome all year long for the Tigers. We'll see if they end up trading him in the next few days. I think they should. I don't know if they will for sure. But he's been great as well. I don't really play, frankly, many pitchers against the Guardians, just with how much contact they make. But Flaherty has fared pretty well against them in 2 starts this year. I do think Flaherty's got good enough stuff to perform against almost any lineup, including this one. But 9K Flaherty, I'm not sure I'll get there. I do like $8,500 Bybee. And then bats on this game, I'm pretty out on for the most part. What about you, Bryce? What are you doing here with Tigers and Guardians?
Yeah, so like I said in our members only show earlier, like when I'm just getting back into the swing of things because I wasn't playing baseball over there, I kind of like to play one lineup as opposed to like 150 or whatever. So yeah, I'm playing one lineup. So I mean, this game's a total fade for hitters for me. I prefer Bybee. I think he has a very good chance of making my main team. There's like pretty much, I think 3, maybe 4 guys I'm considering for my main team, and Bybee's definitely one of them. Flaherty, I'm not really considering simply because like I don't love pitching guys against the Guardians. I know we've reiterated this point like tons of times during the season, but they're just a very contact heavy lineup. And when you're trying to like win a GPP, like I mean, if I was playing 150, I would definitely have some Flaherty. If I was playing like 20 lineups, I'd probably go 20%, something like that. But he doesn't really make the cut for me for single entry. I mean, he's a good enough pitcher as to where, it's not like Cleveland is an atrocious matchup, but they're just not a great matchup for anyone. And I prefer Bybee on this side of the matchup.
Yeah, we agree pretty much on this game. The only thing I would say is with the rise of projections and, most people seemingly having a clue that are playing MLB DFS still here in late July, you do see good pitchers in bad matchups go pretty low owned for the most part. It wasn't always the case in MLB DFS. So that would be the case for Flaherty. You will get him at one of his lower ownerships that we've seen in a while. I think maybe 10 to 15%. Still don't love the matchup. Still don't think I'm going to get there in my 5 lineups, but did want to at least mention that. We do have 2 more games to talk about in this early lock window. Next up is Baltimore and Miami. This one in Miami. So, of course, they're going to play in the Dome, which is a pitcher-friendly park. We've got Edward Cabrera going for the Marlins. Has not pitched well at all this year, frankly. I mean, he is 33 innings in. He's had a long missed 2 months in May and June, and then has come back recently and hasn't really pitched all that well. Did get up to 81 pitches in his last start, but it's been a rough ride for Cabrera, who has pretty severe control problems. If you look at his last start against the Mets, 5 walks in 4 2/3 innings, 5 hits as well. So 10 base runners and 4 2/3, only gave up 1 earned run, only 1 strikeout. Got, frankly, pretty lucky to get away with his 4.5 fantasy points in that one. I don't think Cabrera is in play despite pitching at home in the pitcher's park and a cheap price point at 6,300. I just can't do it with Cabrera. Chase McDermott, Orioles prospect, going to make his MLB debut today. He's kind of an interesting arm. A lot of strikeouts. He's got good stuff. You should see an mid to upper 90s fastball out of McDermott. He does have control issues, but 8K for McDermott. I do think there is some upside here. The Orioles have treated him, for the most part, like a long-term starting pitcher. He's got 3 or 4 games, I think, with over 100 pitches thrown in the minor leagues this year, which is pretty uncommon to see teams let pitchers work that deep into games. So it does kind of tell you what they think of McDermott long-term. They do think of him pretty clearly as a future rotation piece for them. Of course, he gets a good matchup with the Marlins here. I don't hate McDermott. He would certainly be my preferred choice of the two. And then I think the Orioles offense is a little bit interesting here against Cabrera, who, like I said, just walks so many dudes that Orioles are probably going to have guys on the base paths. I know it's a tough park for home runs and all that, but plenty of power in this lineup. And so, yeah, I'm definitely favoring the Orioles side of this one, both pitching and hitting wise. What are you doing, Bryce, with Orioles and Marlins here?
Yeah, I don't really want anything to do with pitching in this game, especially Cabrera. McCormick would be a sprinkle in like 150 for me. His price is just, I don't know. It seems a little prohibitive to me, with the other pitching options that we have on our slate. So, like, he would make my 150 pool, obviously, but he's not really touching my single entry team here. I'm kind of surprised the Orioles aren't bigger favorites, to be honest. Only minus 130. That seems a little off to me. I like the Orioles offense a good amount here against Cabrera. With that line only being 130, like, that's definitely going to have people off of them. I assume you'll get them around 5%. They're an expensive stack, not particularly easy to fit. So that'll keep people off them as well. And I mean, with Cabrera's control issues and just he's just he's not a major league pitcher. He's just on the Marlins, which is why he's in the majors. So yeah, Orioles are one of the teams I'm considering pretty heavily for my even 5 or 3 man stack here. I haven't really built my team yet, but I think they're in a really solid spot here, and I think they're going to go completely under-owned as to what they should. I think it's just a good spot for them. Top to bottom of the order. I mean, Henderson, I don't think anyone plays him at 6.1K. When you get Bobby Witt, who's lighting the planet on fire, you get Corey Seager. I know we'll get to those games, but shortstop's really deep, so like you can get their best hitter at really like reduced ownership here.
Yeah, I think
here I gotta grab my computer charger. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. The Orioles' top 3, Henderson, Rushman, Santander, look good to me. They're 4-5 hitters: O'Hearn, Heston Kierstad, even Cowser down in the 7-hole, Mullins down in the 8-hole. The Marlins do have 3 pretty good left-handed relievers out of the bullpen, so a little bit worried about the pinch hit risk for the lefties outside of the top 3 in the lineup. Obviously, Gunnar not coming out of the game when a lefty comes in or anything like that. So Gunnar, Rushman, Santana, very expensive, but they are the 3 best hitters on Baltimore, and yeah, could certainly see those guys doing some damage. And the rest of the Orioles, like they could do their part in turning the lineup over, getting walks off of the wild Cabrera, getting a chance for Gunnar, Adley, and Santander to get maybe 5 at bats here, even if the bottom of the order doesn't go crazy, just getting walks off Cabrera, turning this lineup over. I do think the Orioles make a lot of sense, even just as a mini stack. I bet they'll go somewhat low owned given the relatively low team total. Obviously, the rough ballpark. But, yeah, I think I'd mostly stick to the top half, especially top three of the Orioles lineup. Any interest in Miami, Bryce? I mean, it is a pitcher making his MLB debut. It does look like he has some talent, but you just never know how much the nerves could come into it. I feel like we see it all the time.
I mean, they're cheap. They're cheap. I don't think there's tons of like amazing hitting spots on this slate. So like I could definitely see Miami, being in the winner. Prefer 3-man stacks to 5-man stacks here, but they're super cheap, and it allows you to fit a lot of like what else you want in your lineup. So I'd probably be over in hitting in this game in general. Under pitching, prefer the Orioles side, but they won't make my single entry team. If I had 3 teams, I probably wouldn't play them. If I had 5 teams, they'd probably make a 3-man stack. And then, if I had 20, I'd probably have like a 5-man and a 3-man is kind of how I would approach it.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Brings us to the Padres and the Nationals, this one in Washington, D.C. Pretty much a toss-up on the betting line, total of 9. We've got Matt Waldron going for the Padres. The sometimes knuckleballer hasn't been quite as sharp in the month of July, but nothing bad yet. He continues to chug along and have a pretty strong season for the Padres. I do think he's at least an interesting play at 8,100 on the slate. That's pretty rough for pitching in general. And then the lefty Mitchell Parker will go for the Nationals. He's had a pretty decent rookie campaign as well. I don't really play many pitchers against the Padres, though, and that'll probably prove true today as well. Just make too much contact. I don't see Mitchell Parker racking up the strikeouts. I'm sure his strikeout prop, I haven't looked at it, probably sitting around 4, 4.5, something like that. So I'm out on Parker. I do think Waldron is interesting. And then bats-wise, I don't see anything that really stands out to me. It is a decent total and decent hitting weather as well. Some storms to watch out for, but I do think it'll play. So, yeah, I think there's multiple ways to play this game. I'm kind of lukewarm on it overall. But what are you doing, Bryce, with Padres and Nationals here?
Does Waldron give up stolen bases? Do you know off the top of your head?
I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, I feel like a knuckleballer would.
I think he does.
Yeah. Especially if Waldron gives up like stolen bases, the Nationals will run on anyone. And
he's giving up 10 on the year. So yeah, they should be running here.
Yeah, I think the Nationals are a really solid play here. DC, when it's hot and humid outside, wind's blowing out, I think it's one of the better spots to attack here. I don't really want anything to do with pitchers, but I definitely play a Nationals 5-man if I had 3 teams. They're in consideration for my main. I like the Nationals side of this a lot better than the San Diego side, though. I do like bats here in general. I just think it's a pretty solid spot for them, and I'll be fading the pitchers. Favorite bats to highlight. Obviously Abrams and Thomas. Like I think Abrams will go way under owned just because like he's the same price as Seager basically, and everyone's going to play Seager. Lane Thomas obviously runs. I think Yepez is way too cheap at 3.3K. Like it's a very affordable stack once you get out of the top 2. So I think it's a good play in 5-mans and 3-mans, and Nats are one of my favorite offenses in the night that will be contrarian. I'm seeing almost no ownership on Washington. So yeah, I think they're really solid plays tonight.
Yeah, you kind of convinced me a little bit on the Nationals here against Waldron, who I do think is a decent pitcher, but a high variance pitcher in general, which makes sense when you use your knuckleball as one of your primary offerings. And yeah, I would imagine the Nationals should be off to the races here. And I do love my stolen bases. So yeah, I think the Nationals might make that squad. To me, it's kind of 1 through 6 on the Nationals. Abrams, Thomas, Winker, Yepez, Wood. and Garcia. I think I'll probably leave off the bottom three. The top half of it is cheap enough where I'm not sure you need to go to, and low owned enough. I'm not sure you need to go to the scrubs down there, 7-8-9 for the Nationals. But I'm with you on the top half of the Nationals lineup. I do think they could do some damage, and the ball should be flying in DC if they can get a hold of Waldron a little bit. So, yeah, on second thought, I do think the Nationals are worthy of some decent consideration. Brings us to the Mets and the Yankees. Yankees pretty big favorites here, sitting around minus 175. Garrett Cole, who obviously returned mid-season, has made I think 6 starts at this point. Yeah, 6 or 7 starts. Has pitched pretty well in his last 2, especially over 100 pitches in each, and kind of doubt if he can keep it up pitching through. It seems like a decent injury, but he does seem to be finding his form to some degree. Certainly the market thinks so, having the Yankees as a pretty decent favorite here. Not a perfect matchup against the Mets, but we did see Luis Gil pitch pretty well against him yesterday, at least on a per inning basis. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cole put up another 20, 25 fantasy points here. For the Mets, it'll be Sean Manaea, the lefty, coming off a rough start against Miami. Prior to that, though, he had been pretty good. I don't think I'm getting to Miami against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium here, but I do think Cole is a decent play. And then both these teams, I think, have one-offs worth considering. But I don't know if I'm getting to the full stack here. It'd be more likely to do Yankees if I was either going to do either stack. What about you, Bryce? What are you doing with Mets and Yankees battle for New York here?
Yeah, I kind of like bats here. I kind of think like Cole's a good option at pitcher, obviously, but he has the propensity to blow up, and when he blows up, it goes very bad. So, like, the Mets wouldn't make my main team or anything like that, but I don't think they're a bad leverage stack because people will play Cole here. He has decent props. There's some pitchers like I'd rather play Bybee straight up over Cole. Is kind of the way I look at it. The Yankees side of the bat or hitting. They got Glaber leading off. I think they're just trying to switch as many things around as possible to, not make it all on Judge and Soto. So, you get Austin Wells hitting lefty hitting fourth. Like that's really weird to me, but I think he's a pretty solid play tonight. These guys batting around Judge and Soto make the stack a little more affordable just because Judge and Soto are, so expensive. I don't really think tons of people are going to be on the Yankees here outside of Judge. Like people will always take Judge in any matchup, especially in a good one. But I like 3-mans. I like 5-man Yankees. I think they're a decent way to get off some of the chalk. I don't think they're going to be incredibly owned outside of Judge tonight. And actually, I think Glaber will definitely carry a lot of ownership leading off at 3.4K. So, if you're stacking them, just, put a weirder player in there. Or, you don't have to do the exact 1 through 5 or like 1 through 4 in a punt. You can switch it up a bit. But pretty high on the Yankees bats here. Cole, like I wouldn't totally fade him or anything, but he would be a sell for me. I'd probably play him, 15 to 20%, and he's probably going to be around 30. He obviously has upside, but it's just not my favorite spot for him.
Yeah, I think I agree with all that. I think if you want to go really off the board, the Mets stack against Cole isn't the craziest thing to do. The Mets have plenty of power. They're on the road. They get the full 9 at bats no matter what. They don't really pinch hit. And the Yankees use a lot of their bullpen these last couple of days. So if they do get to Cole early, which, could absolutely happen, I could see the Mets putting up a decent score here. Some rivalry stuff with the stuff Severino said about, Soto and Judge being the only hitters in their lineup, which, maybe you don't want to say that, but it's definitely true. This team is extremely top heavy. They've got two of the very best bats in baseball and not a lot else. So, yeah, I think I agree with you on the Yankees being interesting, but I wouldn't completely sleep on the Mets if I was playing multiple teams. It's possible I'll throw a Mets stack in there against Cole. And again, it's unlikely to hit, but if it does, all your guys are going to be, probably 2% or below. And it's probably going to be a lot of home runs against Cole if it does get there. So I don't think the Mets are the craziest play on the slate. Tampa Bay and Toronto are up next. Yariel Rodriguez pitching for Toronto. I've played him a decent amount this year. He's mostly come through 3 decent starts in a row. Pitch count is a concern for him. It doesn't look like the Blue Jays are willing to let him go, frankly, beyond 90 pitches. Last 3 starts, he's been 82, 82, and 83. So I think that's just what you expect, 80 to 85 pitches out of Yariel Rodriguez. I think that could be enough at 6,500 at home here against the Rays, who have been a little bit better, but still not an offense to fear. And then Zach Eflin going for Tampa. He got off to a little bit of a rough start, but has been mostly solid since then. I don't take that many pitchers against the Blue Jays, not because I'm super scared of the Jays offense. They just do such a good job of putting the ball in play in general that really limits the upside. But Eflin's price tag at 7,500 does seem fair. I don't see a lot of hitters I'm going to here. A game total of 8. Bryce, what are you doing with Toronto Blue Jays and Tampa Bay Rays here?
I think this game is one of my favorite ones to fade. You can't play every game. I think there are pitchers with a lot more upside, and I think there are batters with a lot more upside. Just kind of hoping for like a 4-3 type of game without like either pitching getting a lot of strikeouts. Don't have tons to say here just because playing one lineup, I kind of crossed it off. Like these are hitters and pitchers that would only make my teams in my 150. Like it's not like I would X them out, but like I probably wouldn't play any 5-man stacks of either team, or maybe just like a couple if you want to play it a little bit flatter. But one of my favorite games to just not touch from either side. If I had to choose a side, I'd probably choose Eflin and the Tampa Bay bats, but Sabres projecting Tampa Bay bats to be super highly owned. I don't really see that argument, but it's something to keep note of. We definitely want to be under that.
I was going to say my favorite play in this game is actually Yariel Rodriguez himself, which would make them even more enticing if that is true that Tampa is going to be highly owned. Which,
I don't really buy that.
I don't know really get why they would be, to be honest. But.
I mean, it's not like a great hitter's park. Like there are plenty of teams with higher team totals. I guess it's that they're cheap. I mean, 3.4K. I mean, you can basically get the top 5 for high 3s average. Probably a pricing thing. Maybe I'm underrating it, but I don't really see it.
Yeah, the Braves' second game of the doubleheader did just get postponed. Was not on the DraftKings slate anyway, I don't believe. So no adjustment.
No, second game was not.
Yeah, maybe that was on the FanDuel slate. I'm honestly not sure, but just.
Do you see your Rockies just broke the early slate?
Oh, last time I checked, they had 13 runs. So
they're at 19. Doyle just hit a grand slam.
I did not play them, so my winnings probably went to 0 there. But is what it is. Coors Field, man, you never know. Nick Pivetta, I thought actually was a decent play today, but that did not turn out to be the case. And that's Coors Field for you. It can erupt at any time. That is Tampa Bay, Toronto. 3 more games to talk about. Does bring us to the White Sox and the Texas Rangers. Bryce, you mentioned only a few pitchers really in consideration for your main team. I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing Nathan Eovaldi might be one of them. at home here against a just kind of all-around bad White Sox team. Eovaldi is coming off a rough start against the Baltimore Orioles, but certainly a much easier matchup here. In general, he's pitched pretty well for the most part this year, especially when he's been at home. He's been much sharper. He is at home here in one of the best matchups that he can have. So I would be surprised if he didn't have some interest in Eovaldi. And then on the other side, Chris Flexen, guy that we, or at least I, like to stack against fairly often. I do think Texas makes for pretty good plays. In this one, over to you, Bryce, Texas and the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, Eovaldi is my favorite pitcher of the day. I'm going to be playing him on my main team. He's a good pitcher, pretty good hitting environment. Want nothing to do with Flexen.
No.
He's just an absolute trash pitcher against a good Texas lineup. I struggle a little bit with Texas just because, I think they're going to be fairly chalky here. So I think, I think I might prefer some other teams to them for my main, but I do like them against Flexen, obviously. The prices on them aren't absurd. I could also see this as being one of them, like a slate that's pretty spread out hitting wise. Just because no teams particularly stand out. Texas does have the highest team total of the slate, which will just naturally make them the chalkiest team of the slate. So likely going to be not playing them on my main team. If I had three, I'd definitely play a 5-man Texas. But yeah, in GPPs, I'd probably play them around 15 to 20%. Zero Flexen, White Sox. If you're not playing Eovaldi on your team, and I don't think it's awful leverage. I think Eovaldi will carry a lot of ownership here. I much prefer like the White Sox for their upside as opposed to the Tigers if you're looking to get like super leverage off some of the chalkier pitching. So I would play a couple White Sox stacks, even though Eovaldi's my favorite pitcher. It's baseball. I would play a couple stacks in like 20 lineups. I don't think I'd get there in 3 or 5 lineups, but if you're playing 20 or 150, I would definitely include some White Sox, and I would want to be over the field on Eovaldi though.
Yeah, I'm with you. Eovaldi, I do think is going to be, if not the most popular pitcher on the slate, certainly he's going to be up there. It looks like Bybee and Eovaldi are, I think, the favorites to be the 2 most popular pitchers. Hard to argue with that, frankly, and it does seem like a decent slate to maybe eat the chalk at pitching and get different elsewhere. I think the variation between the various offenses is less than between the pitchers. So it does seem like a pretty good slate to me to eat some of the chalk pitching with Eovaldi, Tanner Bybee, who we've talked about, a couple more pitchers who I think are in play in these last 2 games. But I'm with you. If you're not on those guys, if you're not on Bybee or Eovaldi, it does make some sense to try to get some bats against them because we do know they're going to be pretty highly owned in general. And yeah, it's hard to argue with Texas. Are they going to be the most popular stack? I think they might be.
I would definitely think so. You can see Mateo. Just a little head in the background. Oh, there he goes.
He likes Texas. Likes it.
Yeah, or he likes the fade, and knowing they're the highest owned team, I might have to ask him after the show.
We need one of the viewers or one of us to kind of write down like what happens when Mateo barks. Is it the stack that goes off, or do they fade? We don't know for sure.
Well, I think we were talking about them being high owned, so if I had to guess anything, it would be the fade here.
Okay.
But maybe I'll give him a post show for our members in Discord. I'll give him a little blue colored treat and see if he wants it or not. We could do a black and a blue one.
That's what you get signing up for RPS. You get the Mateo tape.
Yeah.
2 more games to talk about: Arizona and Kansas City up next. We've got Michael Wacha pitching for the Kansas City Royals. This one in Kansas City, by the way, going to be similar weather to what we've seen. Royals let me down last night after almost getting me home on Monday night. But we have Michael Wacha and Ryan Nelson, who is coming off, I believe, his best game of the year against the Cubs. I was in Wrigley for that one. Wasn't a ton of fun to watch. As someone who was on the Cubs side of it, I do expect that not to last long, though, for Ryan Nelson. And I'm pretty interested in going back to the Royals here. The lefties in particular look good. Pasquantino, Massey, but of course, Witt continues to be on fire. He's really the only Royals player who did anything yesterday. I don't think I'm getting to either of these pitchers, Bryce, but what are you doing with Royals and D-backs?
This is a game I struggle with too, simply because I think that both teams are going to be fairly chalky. I think both of these teams will fall just behind the Rangers as kind of like the chalkier teams. So, I mean, people just love playing Bobby Witt. It's like playing Aaron Judge, except a little bit safer. It's like playing an LA
Rightfully so. I mean, two of the best.
Yeah, the guy's an absolute stud.
Yeah,
it's just kind of the stacks around him suck. So I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get there in my main team. I don't hate going absolutely off the board at pitching here with Nelson or Wacha. Like if you want some super low owned options, I think I'd rather buy on pitching than hitting in this game. If I had 5 teams, I mean, I'd probably have a KC stack in there. If I had 3 teams, I'd probably have a 3-man with Witt. Is kind of how I would approach this game, but I do prefer the pitching side of it. Not saying to go out and play like Wacha on your main team, just because I'm not going to do that. But I think he's a good option if you have a couple bullets to fire here, and same can be said for Nelson. I mean, these guys are going to come in at 1%, and if the chalk pitching does get blown up, it's only an 8-game slate. It's not like we're playing an absolutely massive slate. So, you can get some decent direct leverage there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I lean, the Royals bats side of this game is my favorite way to play it overall. Like I said, I do like the lefties, but you can play anybody against Brian Nelson, and I do expect him to come kind of crashing back to earth after that big outing last time out. Ball is going to fly in KC, absolutely 90 degrees, humid, and we've certainly seen some big games in that ballpark with weather like this. Last game of the night then brings us to Dodger Stadium out in LA. We've got Tyler Glasnow pitching for the Dodgers. Last pitch on July 5th went on the IL. Back injury there. He did throw 58 pitches in a simulated game last Friday. We'll see if he's limited. I think that's kind of the presumption with Tyler Glasnow, but I'm not 100% sure that's going to be the case. He's never really thrown that many innings in a season to begin with, and I could definitely see a scenario where he kind of had maybe a phantom injury with the All-Star break there, give him some extra rest, make sure he's ready to go for the playoffs, right? I mean, the Dodgers obviously have bigger ambitions than the regular season. So I don't know this for sure, but just reading the tea leaves a little bit, I wouldn't be shocked if Glasnow is just kind of his normal self who, they did let throw 90-plus pitches most of his starts. I think he's interesting here for sure at 9,800 against a Giants team who I'm not afraid of, especially against right-handed pitchers, which is obviously what Glasnow throws from. And then Robbie Ray going to make his 2024 MLB debut. I believe he missed the entirety of 2023 as well. So hasn't pitched in the big leagues in a year and a half. Was obviously a pretty strong pitcher, before, I think it was Tommy John that he got in the spring of 2023. I don't think I can use Ray here at 7,200 against the Dodgers. I think the more interesting play is the Dodgers themselves against a pitcher coming off of a very, very long layoff. Could certainly be rusty. Good pitcher when he's on his game, but will he be close to that? I think if I had to guess, probably not. Interesting one here with both these pitchers. What are you doing, Bryce, with the Dodgers and the Giants?
So looking at Glass now, just kind of trying to read the tea leaves through props here. His K prop is pretty good. It's juiced over 6.5, but I don't really see a site offering pitching outs. That's the one I'd really want to know. I'm kind of assuming, it would be 15.5, pretty heavy under juice. It kind of seems like the situation where they're going to let him throw 5 innings no matter what to me. Because the hits are under 3.5 or juiced under. So I don't think he's going to go for like a long outing like that. That one would be higher. 6.5 strikeouts juiced over seems pretty in line with throwing 5 innings. So if I had to guess, it's kind of like you're going to go out, you're going to throw 5 innings no matter what. Even if you have a low pitch count or you get to 90. So that's kind of what I'm expecting with Glass now. It could be good enough to get there on the slate. But it does cap his upside a bit if I'm right about that. So, there's not tons of massive strikeout pitchers on the slate. I think I'd rather throw Garrett Cole than him if it came down to it, just because, I think Cole has, more upside, to throw like 7 or 8 innings and put up an absolute massive score. But I don't think Glasnow is the worst play. I just think he's a little bit like safer of a play than a high upside play, if that makes sense. So I'd likely fade on my main team. Three teams I'd fade. 5 I might play 1. 150 I'd probably be around 10%. That's going to be significantly under the field, but I just kind of see him throwing 5 innings. He can get there in 5 innings. He gets a win. He gets 7 Ks. That's good enough. So, I just worry about how many innings he's going to throw here, and my best guess is 5. That being said, I think the San Fran's a total fade for me hitting wise. Glasnow in the Dodgers pen is not something I really want to attack. I would much rather have extra Dodgers exposure here against a huge question mark in Robbie Ray. You really don't know what you're going to be getting here from him. It wouldn't surprise me if he went out and had a good outing. It wouldn't surprise me if he went out and had a bad outing. I kind of figured it would be more of a bullpen game, but his props indicate that they're going to let him go. It looks like he threw about 80 pitches in his rehab start. So, I'd be guessing 80 to 90.
Ray came back on June 23rd, was his first official minor league outing. He threw 45 pitches then. Since then, it's been 48, 58, 59, 74, and 78 in his last outing in AAA. So if things are going well, 85 pitches, I think is possible. Obviously, the matchup's not ideal against the Dodgers. He did pitch well, though, in his minor league outings, especially in that last one, 5 1/3 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts, 78 pitches, missed a bunch of bats. So, I don't think it's, impossible for Robbie Ray to throw well here. Ownership, it should be around 5% or so. So not the craziest play at 7,200 if you want to get a little bit different. And like I said, he has limited damage against him. I don't think that makes the Dodgers a bad play necessarily, but Ray, when he's on his game, is a pretty good arm. I don't think I'm going to end up on the Dodgers on my main team or anything like that. I think I'm more likely to play Glasnow. And I was going to say, Bryce, I would maybe let ownership decide for me between Glasnow and Cole, but Sabres got a 2% difference between the two. So, got to go with who you think. And I think I'm kind of with you. where I think I would take Cole over Glass now. Just think he'll go deeper into the game, but I don't think either guy is a bad play. And even if Glasnow goes 5 innings, I don't think it's going to be that high of a pitching scoring slate. Like 5 scoreless innings with 7 strikeouts and a win, probably enough, frankly, on the slate to get you to the winner's circle as long as your bats go off. So, yeah, I do think Glasnow in play despite some concerns over the pitch count. That is all 8 games. Let's get to some of the fun stuff here at the end. We'll throw it back to you, Bryce, for your favorite overall stack and your favorite contrarian stack on this slate.
Favorite overall stack here. 2. I'll do contrarian first. Favorite contrarian stack here is the Nationals. Like them a good amount here against Waldron. Favorite overall stack. I mean, it's Texas, but if you consider ownership, I'd probably go with the Yankees.
Yeah, it makes sense. My favorite stack, I'll go with the Royals. I'll go back to them for a 3rd slate in a row. 1 good, 1 bad. Hopefully back to the good side tonight against Ryan Nelson. And then contrarian stack, I'm with you. I do really like the Nationals, but I'll go with the Mets against Garrett Cole. I don't think it gets there that often, but I do think when it hits in a big way. It'll be super low owned. And Garrett Cole certainly capable of giving it up. We've seen it plenty of times from him in the past. So I do like the Mets a little bit as a contrarian stack. Most important pitcher on this slate, Bryce, who are you rolling with?
Bybee.
Yes, Tanner Bybee against Detroit. Can't really argue with that. And I'll chalk it up right with you. Go with Nathan Eovaldi against the White Sox. And honestly, I think pairing the two and then maybe getting a little off the board with your hitters could be a pretty good path to the winner tonight. Home run call, Bryce. Who's going yard?
It's so easy to say Judge, so I'll say someone else. I'm going to go Lane Thomas.
Lane Thomas. Yes, I like that call against Matt Waldron. That's a strong one there. Love Lane tonight. I'll go to the Rangers, and I will go with Wyatt Langford, who's really picking it up as of late in the second half of the year. Big pedigree coming into the year. Struggled, but has looked much better recently. I'm sure he'll be a popular play tonight, but I do like Wyatt Langford quite a bit. Finally, Bryce, your overall favorite hitter on the slate?
Aaron, I went with Aaron Judge for the home run call, so I'll go with Bobby Witt. I just think they're the 2 best hitters on the slate by a mile.
We'll make a little mini stack there. I'll go with Vinny Pasquantino, maybe a Witt Pasquantino, heart of the order, Royals. Mini stack to get there against Brian Nelson certainly makes a lot of sense to me. That'll do it for this show, though. We do appreciate all you guys watching. I'll be out for about a week here on the baseball content, but we got you covered, of course, with all the RPS stuff we got going on. And football, not far away now, just 6 weeks till football, golf, NASCAR, MMA, of course, going to finish strong with baseball, everything you need over at runpuresports.com. This show will be back tomorrow morning, and then, of course, usual time for the rest of the week and all that jazz. That'll do it for us, though. For Third and Schlong, I'm Draft Cheat. We're out.